Good evening and welcome to another edition of Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. My name is Austin Brubaker. I will be your host this evening, and we have a lot of Dodgers news to be able to talk about because today was the deadline to be able to pick up some club options. It was the deadline to make a bunch of moves because free agency is now officially open in Major League Baseball. The Dodgers actually made several moves, some of which were expected. Others completely surprising to this organization. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about which players were added to the roster, which players are not currently on the roster or no longer a part of the organization. We'll be breaking all that down. Today is also going to be a little bit of a Q&A for you guys. So just me on the show today. Casey is actually busy with a lot of other stuff, not directly related with off-season coverage. He's actually been taking a lot of time going out and interviewing a bunch of players or personnel that are close to the organization. By the way, I believe it's going to be tomorrow. I think Casey's going to be releasing an interview with a player who participated in the World Series. I'll leave that as a little bit of a hint for you guys. See if you guys can try to figure it out before that video gets released. I believe it's tomorrow, if not shortly. There's going to be a lot of coverage with players or personnel within the organization that he's going to be working on. He's focused on that. I have been focused a lot more on the off-season stuff, particularly because the business of baseball never stops. And we saw that on full display today. So today we're going to be going over what the Dodgers did, what are some of the implications of this move, and then in addition, because I went through two entire streams of talking through the offseason coverage, breaking down what are some of the things that you need to know about the Dodgers roster, also talking through a lot of players that could potentially be available. I want to open this up a little bit as a Q&A for you guys, meaning I did not get a chance to interact with the audience really much at all during part 1 and part 2 of the Welcome to the Offseason video. Today, in addition to discussing the Dodgers moves that they made, we're going to be going through and actually going with you guys and answering any sort of questions that you guys have. A couple of notes on that. If you remember, I had an Excel sheet that I used pretty regularly that really helped with the analysis for the Dodgers offseason, completely created from scratch by me. You have full access to that to be able to view it. In the description of this video is the Excel spreadsheet. If you want to, feel free to be able to utilize that, and we'll be talking through some of that. I know I have it pulled up over here. We'll be going through that as well as appropriate. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in. We'll start with business, but first off, thank you very much for joining us. David Fletcher, Daniel Berry Sports Highlights, Justin Lamas, History Man, Go Dodgers, and God Bless, Owl of Minerva, and O'Donnell Boy. A lot of people are going to be tuning in through the course of the show, so I thank you guys for participating and being here through this journey with me. All right, we're going to start off with a little bit of news as far as the Dodgers and what they were able to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pull up the spreadsheet that we have, and we're going to take a look at this. Again, this is what I had utilized for the off-season coverage, and this is something I'm going to continue to utilize. So, as we had talked about going into the show last time, the Dodgers were, if they were to pick up Max Muncy's option, would have been at 41 players. The Dodgers got to 40 players, but instead of just moving off of one player at this point, they moved off of 3 different players. So let's get into a little bit of transactions as far as what they actually did. So the first thing of note that you guys need to know about is Max Muncy. Max Muncy had a $10 million club option that the team exercised, meaning that he will be a Los Angeles Dodger for the 2026 season. He will only be making $10 million as per the contract that he originally signed. The team accepted the club option, so he will be the third baseman for the Dodgers, and I think this is a tremendous thing for the organization. If you remember the lineup, the past 2 seasons when Max Muncy is not in the lineup versus when he is in the lineup, there is a dramatic change of production. And this is because Max Muncy is an absolutely incredible hitter for the Dodgers. Let's go to the offensive stats. Again, these numbers that I have up here are 2023 through 2025 stats to give you a little bit of a better picture of who Max Muncy is. Over the past 3 seasons, he's averaged about 103 games a season, 420 plate appearances. 226 average is not high, but a 352 on base percentage combined with a 478 slugging percentage means that he is a significantly positive player. 127 WRC plus. The expected results are really solid. He absolutely mashes against right-handed pitching and is essential to the Dodgers lineup, and being able to hit right-handed pitching. You can see a lot of blue, a lot of low WRC plus numbers against righties, except for the top 3. Max Muncy really helps reinforce hitting against right-handed pitching. He can also work counts, very low chase percentage, walks a ton, hits for a lot of power. He is really solid at what he's able to do. Defensively, not the greatest defender out there, below average defender. I think we all recognize that. But for $10 million for a 127 WRC plus, a consistently 2 to 2.5 to 3 WAR type of player, this is an absolute no-brain decision for the organization. He was added back onto the roster, which means they have their third baseman set for the 2026 season. In addition, and this is a little bit more minor news, the club option that Alex Vesia had was also picked up by the Dodgers. So, with Alex Vesia last year, once he was entering the arbitration process, which he had going into last year, 2 additional years of team control with arbitration, instead of just giving him a one year contract for arbitration, and then this year being his last year of arbitration, they gave him a certain amount of money, I don't remember exactly what it was last year, and a $3.55 million club option. Now, if the team decided not to pick up that club option, he would re-enter the arbitration process. However, the team picked up the club option. Alex Vesia will make $3.55 million, and he will be a Los Angeles Dodger continuing this year. Very technical as far as the details. Alex Vesia is going to be a Dodger in 2026. We continue to pray for him and his family, obviously. Now, in order for those moves to make sense, in order for those moves to happen, the organization, we'll come back to me, the organization, in order to add Max Muncy back on the roster, they would have been at 41 players. Now, I was anticipating them to make at least one move, but they decided not just to add Max Muncy. They decided not just to pick up the club option for Alex Vesia. They also added 2 players from the farm system. They added Ryan Ward onto the 40-man roster, and they added Robinson Ortiz to the 40-man roster. We'll get to those players specifically in just a minute. Again, we'll get to a Q&A as far as everything to do with the offseason in a little bit. But Robinson Ortiz and Ryan Ward are now on the 40-man roster for the Dodgers. And the reason why they were added to the 40-man roster today is not to protect them from the Rule 5 draft, although they certainly were eligible for the Rule 5 draft. It was specifically because both of those players would have been minor league free agents if given, I don't know exactly how many days, but in a matter of days, they would have been minor league free agents. The Dodgers, because they were still technically under team control, could and decided to pick those players and add them to their roster. Thus, the organization has continued control over Ryan Ward and Robinson Ortiz. In order to do so, instead of just having to make one move off the 40-man roster, the organization made 3 separate moves. And the 3 moves that they decided to make were, the first one, Tony Gonsolin was designated for assignment. Now, this might be confusing to you if you just recognize the talent that Tony Gonsolin has and want him to be able to succeed. Why are the Dodgers getting rid of some of their starting pitching depth? It had to do with a couple of different rationale and reasons. One, Tony Gonsolin would have been out of minor league options. He was entering into his last year of team control, meaning he wouldn't have even been eligible to be sent down to the minor leagues, which means that there is no flexibility with having Tony Gonsolin. If he's healthy, he has to be on the major league roster. There's no sending him down to Oklahoma City unless it's some sort of rehab assignment. In addition, he was going to be injured for at least the start, if not the majority of the 2026 season. So, the organization made a tough move with 1 year of club control left. And in addition, if you look at some of the pitching stats over the past 3 seasons for Tony Gonsolin, he had a 4.99 ERA, a 5.76 expected ERA past 3 seasons, and very limited amount of outings. The production that Tony Gonsolin was able to produce was just not there. There was no flexibility with Tony Gonsolin, and so the organization, who I'm sure did not want to make this decision, made the very tough choice to designate Gonsolin for assignment. In addition, Michael Grove was outrighted to the minor leagues. Now, this is a very technical term. I believe he was placed on waivers. So essentially, and I don't know what part of the process he's on, but Michael Grove was removed from the 40-man roster. He was somebody that was out all of 2025. In the past, had really helped fill in and be that stopgap fill-in starter. Had a little bit of success at times throughout his career. Looking at some of the stats that he had, a 4.42 expected ERA. The xFIP and SIERA numbers actually for Michael Grove over the past 3 seasons are really good. 385 and 368 respectively. Can get a little bit of swing and miss. Limited number of walks. The reason why a person like a Michael Grove was optioned down to the minor or outrighted, his flexibility going forward was going to be very limited. He had 1 option year left, which means that they could just option him down in the minor leagues just in 2026. After that, they would have to move on for Michael Grove. And if you look at the roster construction, or at least the number of option years that the organization has, there's a lot of players that have multiple option years, 2 or 3 years. These are the guys that you're wanting in your organization because you have more time to be able to develop guys at the minor league level, to be able to see if they can turn around and be productive players. With a person like a Michael Grove, he was in this 1 option year category, which means that the organization did not have a whole lot of time to be able to continue his development, especially with him coming back off of injury. He unfortunately was outrighted, so over the next couple of days or so, we'll see if he gets sent back to Oklahoma City, except every other team has a chance to be able to pick him up and add him to their 40-man roster and be part of their club. For his sake, we'll see what happens. I kind of hope he gets picked up by another team, not because I don't want him on the Dodgers, but because I think that would be good for his chances in 2026 to go out there and succeed. We'll have to wait, and we'll give updates as provided by Michael Grove. Those are 2 players that were sent out or that were removed from the 40-man roster. The third one is the legend himself, Justin Dean. Justin Dean, friend to the program. Actually, there is an interview, about a 10-minute long interview that Casey had with Justin Dean earlier this year. Obviously, heroics during the course of the World Series. Hands up during the postseason, but it wasn't just that moment. It was every single moment going out there and filling in defensively in center field to make this team as good defensively as it possibly could be. The organization did not see him as an offensive player at the big league level. This was apparent because of the way they played him, even during the course of the regular season. I think he had 2 plate appearances, but defensively, they enjoyed his glove enough to trust him in some of the biggest moments of the season. It was Justin Dean that was in there in center field during close, tight games in the postseason when the Dodgers had the lead. It was him that had that moment in the World Series, and he will forever be a Dodgers legend. He was also removed from the 40-man roster and was picked up by the San Francisco Giant. Justin Dean is a San Francisco Giant now. He is no longer part of the Dodgers organization. That was 3 people that were removed from the 40-man roster to make room for Max Muncy, who needed to have his club option exercised, Ryan Ward, and Robinson Ortiz. Max Muncy, everyone knows, or Dodgers fans, I should say, know about him. But who are Ryan Ward and who is Robinson Ortiz? I think those are very real question marks about it. Let's go ahead and start about the player that you're probably a little bit more familiar about first, and that is Ryan Ward. What we're going to do is we're going to first pull up the Fangraphs numbers, particularly because I think it's important for you guys to understand who Ryan Ward as a player is. Then we'll get into some of my thoughts and breakdown of this. So these are the Fangraph numbers. We'll get into additional numbers from my spreadsheet in just a second. Last year, Ryan Ward had a breakout season. The Pacific Coast League MVP. He is the all-time, I think, home run and RBI leader in Oklahoma City baseball history as far as the AAA team, Oklahoma City. It's changed names, but now Oklahoma City Comets. He is the all-time leader in home runs and RBIs for him. And he spent the past 3 seasons at the Oklahoma City level, and he has just learned and adapted more and more as he's gone along, to the point where last year, 652 plate appearances for him, 290 batting average, 380 on base percentage, 557 slugging, with a 132 WRC+. He did this because he hit 36 home runs. After, in 2024, he hit 33 home runs. It is completely underrated just how much power a guy like Ryan Ward has. He can absolutely mash the baseball, and he does not look like, when you're going out there and playing, someone who can go out there and hit home runs to the degree that he did. He also completely revolutionized his ability in the strike zone. In 2024, it was about an 8% walk percentage, round to slightly below league average, and a 27% strikeout percentage. A little bit too high for him. This past year, 12.7 walk percentage and an 18.7 strikeout percentage. Severely increased the walks, decreased the strikeouts. And what is really cool about a guy like Ryan Ward is he is absolutely incredible versus right-handed hitters. If you look at his splits, righties against right-handed pitching, 404 plate appearances for him against, or at-bats, I think technically, against right-handed pitching. 319 batting average, 402 on base percentage, 636 slugging percentage, and that is a 1.038 OPS against right-handed pitching. When we're talking about the Dodgers as a team, we know that they need outfield help. But I've talked extensively about them needing outfield help when it comes specifically against right-handed pitching. Let's go through the 3 outfielders. Actually, let's throw in Tommy Edman to this mix as well. But really, the 3 outfielders plus Tommy Edman that are on the Dodgers roster. Teoscar Hernandez, a lot better against lefties. I think 129 WRC plus versus lefties over the past 3 seasons. Andy Pages, a lot better against left-handed pitching. Alex Call, a lot better against left-handed pitching. Tommy Edman, who can also play the outfield, a lot better against left-handed pitching. Ryan Ward, they're all better against left-handed pitching, I should say. Teoscar, better against lefties. Andy Pages, better against lefties. Alex Call, better than lefties. Tommy Edman, better against lefties. Ryan Ward is better against right-handed pitching. I don't remember if I got those mixed up. Could have totally messed that up right there. Ryan Ward, significantly better against righties and hit for a lot of power last year against righties. 31 of his 36 home runs came against righties last year, which means that you could potentially, within your system, be getting a power bat that can really hit against right-handed pitching. Something else I want to go over, because those numbers could be slightly misleading, only because if you look at the Pacific Coast League and their environment, it very much is a hitter-friendly environment. So how do we compare those numbers to the Pacific Coast League, especially the power numbers and some of the on-base and slugging numbers? This is part of the Excel spreadsheet. I have this for every single player, their 2025 stats, as that are currently part of the Dodgers organization. And that at the top, we have Ryan Ward because he had the most plate appearances at Oklahoma City. 132 WRC plus. His batting average of 290, 7% above league average. On base percent, 5% above league average. 26% above league average in his slugging percentage. And what was really apparent, his ISO, his isolated power numbers, 267 for him. That was 55% better than the league average Pacific Coast League hitter. You can look at his walk percentage, 13% above league average. Strikeout percentage, 14% above league average. Swinging strike percentage, 24% below league average, meaning he doesn't swing and miss as much as the rest of the league. So, What you have with Ryan Ward, and the reason why I point out those numbers, is you're starting to see a little bit of a picture as to the type of hitter and player that he is. He very much is and has profiled as a big-time power bat, but he has made dramatic strides with his ability and bat-to-ball skills. He has been absolutely tremendous inside of the Dodgers organization. So that brings up the question, why now? I mentioned one reason earlier, and that is because Ryan Ward was expected to be a minor league free agent. In fact, on this show, Casey and I had talked about a lot about looking forward to Ryan Ward reaching minor league free agency, specifically because this was going to give him another opportunity to be able to look for another organization or someplace internationally to play and start his professional career. The organization did not allow him to seek out any sort of opportunities in minor league free agency because they stopped it before it could begin, when it was right about to begin, and added him to the 40-man roster. I think this has to do with a couple of different reasons. One, the talent of Ryan Ward is apparent. He is a great hitter as an outfielder. Now, defensively, he's not the greatest left fielder. He plays left field. He can play a little bit of right field, but I think profiles more as a left fielder. I don't believe that he's going to be necessarily the greatest defender out there, just from what I have seen with my own eyes with Ryan Ward, not based off any of the numbers that he has. But he can be serviceable enough in the outfielder. They needed an outfielder that can hit against righties. Ryan Ward fits that profile. And I think that's a massive thing, is that he can go ahead and hit against right-handed pitching. He hits for some power, and they're still not exactly sure what they're going to do with the rest of the offseason, how it's going to be able to work out. If you have somebody who is definitely big league ready because he's been at the AAA level, and especially with what he was able to do this past season, hit for a lot of success, he has had a lot of success in Oklahoma City. Now brings up the real question, and this is where I need to see it from the organization. Now, I do not have a lot of criticisms for the Dodgers as an organization and what they have. I have a lot of people that I've gotten to know, and a lot of people and just come to an appreciation for what the organization is able to do. I have to see what their plan actually is for Ryan Ward before I can say whether or not I'm excited about it. Because once they decided to take on Ryan Ward's contract, this does not mean that Ryan Ward is going to be a Major League Baseball player. What this means is the organization now has 3 years of additional team control that they were not anticipating to have going forward with Ryan Ward. So this begs the question as far as the role that Ryan Ward has. Is the organization thinking about having Ryan Ward be an actual contributor to the major league level? If so, I am all for this, and I am so excited about Ryan Ward, and he could be the very piece that the organization needs to fit into this outfield, because if we're looking at a lot of the targets that I'm looking for the Dodgers, Ryan Ward fits a lot of the profile that I'm looking for, particularly a productive hitter who can go ahead and get hit against righties. He checks that mark, at least at the minor league level, very much so. If the organization sees him and say, hey, we want to give this guy a fair and real shot at the big league level, and we want to see if he can actually make a career for himself as a Los Angeles Dodger. If that is the goal to keep in mind, I'm all for it. Similarly, if the plan is, hey, we see a lot of interest with Ryan Ward, and we potentially want to utilize him in some sort of trade that we have working up, I kind of get that from an organizational point of view, and if they are definitely going to trade somebody like Ryan Ward, I guess I could kind of get involved, especially if a team is willing and interested in him, and he was going to sign there anyways as a minor league free agent. That I can get on board of. What I cannot get on board of is if the organization is just utilizing this to get 3 additional more years of Ryan Ward as minor league depth. If the organization has no plan to implement Ryan Ward or give him any sort of real shot at the major league level, and it's only using this to have a solid backup contributor that might come in for 20 games through the course of a major league career, and you're wasting 3 of the prime years of Ryan Ward's career, that I cannot get behind, especially if other teams or other organizations or other leagues were looking to give Ryan Ward more and further opportunities. It depends on what the organization's thought behind this is. They have to have a plan. Otherwise, they could just be hoarding on to a player like Ryan Ward, in which case this is an egregious way to be able to hoard some of your prospects without giving them opportunities. I have a fear that that could be the case. I'm hoping they have some sort of plan, at least to give him a shot at the major league level. And this comes from you have to think about this from a personal point of view. What does Ryan Ward have to do to reach the major league level, and what opportunities could be created to make that happen? We'll have to wait and see what exactly takes place and how they actually implement this. This was a surprise to me because I was anticipating them to just let him and do what's right by Ryan Ward and let him go out and seek whatever opportunities are available. Now he is a Los Angeles Dodger, so do right by Ryan Ward. In addition, the Dodgers also made an additional one more addition to their 40-man roster, and this was a little bit interesting because this was something that I had hinted to with my Rule 5 draft coverage, but wasn't necessarily anticipating them to make this move. So, if we look at the Dodgers roster right now, we have the starters, we have guys that have to be on the bullpen if they're on the roster, we have injured bullpen arms, we have optionable starters, and we have optionable relievers. Now, assume that Michael Grove was part of this relievers mix. This has been updated since the moves have taken place. You would have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different optionable right-handed relievers combined with 4 different optionable starters that were right-handed. The only 2 optionable guys that were left-handed pitchers were Justin Robleski and Jack Dreyer. So, what my theory was during the Rule 5 draft, as far as guys that they would want to protect, 2 guys that were at the AAA level that had a lot of success were guys like a Ronan Kopp and a Garrett McDaniels. So to add to the minor league depth of left-handed arms that you could bring up and down, be optionable guys, I anticipated the organization to go down that route. And that actually was going to be some of the crutch of our coverage over the course of the next week and a half before the organization has to make a choice. They decided to take somebody who was going to be a minor league free agent in Robinson Ortiz instead. And he has had a tremendous turnaround. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull up a tweet that I just put out, or a post, I guess, technically is what I put out, because I think his story is just so remarkable. Let's talk a little bit about Robinson Ortiz. So for those of you who are not familiar with his story, he actually was injured for the greater part of the past couple of seasons. In fact, he only pitched 22 1/3 innings from 2021 to 2024. And technically, if you want to include 2020, which there was no minor league season, since 2020 or before 2025, from 2020 to 2024, those 5 years, he only pitched 22 1/3 innings at the minor league level, dealing with injuries, fighting for a way to be able to come back. But the resiliency that Robinson Ortiz, left-handed reliever, went through, former top prospect within the organization, and he has now certified himself onto the World Series champions Dodgers roster. Just absolutely incredible for him. So let's go through a little bit of his journey. These are some of the posts that I have based on Robinson Ortiz. So Robinson started 2025 in Great Lakes, a team that he pitched for both in 2019 and 2021. Long break between those seasons. And 2019, Great Lakes was still at low A affiliate of the Dodgers, moved up to high A affiliate after the reshuffling in 2020 at the minor league level. At Great Lakes in 21 2/3 innings, 3.74 ERA, 3.45 FIP, 28% strikeout percentage, a little bit high on the walk percentage, still decent strikeout minus walk percentage, and high ground ball percentage. Where this compares to league average stats. So similar to WRC Plus, I put this on a scale with 100 being league average and anything above being better than league average, anything below 100 being worse than league average. Think very much like WRC Plus in this statistic. One note, these are not park adjusted. Typically these plus stats have some sort of park adjustment. I did not make those in this, so take these with a general degree of accuracy. For Robinson Ortiz with Great Lakes, 109 ERA plus, 106 xFIP plus, 124 strikeout percentage plus, meaning he was 24% better than the league average pitcher in the Midwest League at generating strikeouts. This is going to be some of the video and stuff of Robinson
Ortiz
right
to
here.
Yearling.
You can see some of that. He has a
swing
really
and a miss
good
towards us.
sweeping slider, as Casey said. Some of this is
backs out of
going right here. This is actually, fun fact, that's
swing
me,
and a miss.
That's Stamina.
Hard to bounce back after.
Right
His last
that's
outing was 2 innings with the 1 run allowed.
Right there.
First pitch here on the outside edge.
Right there.
Robinson Ortiz.
Continuing on, he got promoted to Tulsa part of the way through the season. 21 1/3 innings pitched in Double-A. A 1.69 ERA, a 2.33 FIP, a 2.98 expected FIP, 35% strikeout percentage with a 24.4 strikeout minus walk percentage, and a 55% ground ball percentage. Those are insane numbers for him. That's a 1.60 ERA plus in Double-A, 1.45 FIP plus, a 1.52 strikeout percentage plus, 52% better than the league average pitcher in the Texas League, and a 1.94 strikeout minus walk percentage plus, 94% better than the league average pitcher strikeout minus walk percentage for Robinson Ortiz at the Double-A level. You can see some of the video on him. Again, this is courtesy of MiLB TV. Casey has all of this stuff on his X page right there. You can see some of the pitches that he's able to have. We'll watch one more of Robinson Ortiz right here. See what happens right there. Looks like a fly ball to center field. He was then, so it started off in Great Lakes at High A, got promoted to Double-A, dominated Double-A, got some experience at the Triple-A level with a 2.76 ERA, which, if you don't understand the Pacific Coast League, you won't understand just how good that is. That is 49% better than the league average pitcher in the Pacific Coast League. 2.76 ERA is tremendous for him. The FIP and xFIP a little bit higher. That could cause you some concern. Still better than league average for Robinson Ortiz. Strikeout minus walk percentage took a little bit of a hit. Still some adjustment that he's able to have. But one thing that really stood out, his home run divided by his fly ball percentage really took a dive over the course of his tenure. One of the things that haunted him during his tenure in Great Lakes is he gave up a decent amount of home runs. There was one big home run that I was present for in West Michigan. Still not over that home run that he gave up, but he had a little bit of a home run problem in Great Lakes. Was completely able to eliminate that in Tulsa and had a lot of success during a very home run friendly league in the Pacific Coast League at limiting home runs against some of his pitches. Fastball can sit mid 90s, can reach up to a little bit more towards the upper 90s, but it's going to sit a little bit more 95, 96 type of area. And then that slider is going to be really devastating to lefties going away from him. You can see the slot that he has. It looks like he's throwing behind the left-handed pitchers, and then it's going to dart away from them as they try to swing at it away from lefties. Can go down and in versus righties as well. So Robinson Ortiz adds to the depth that this organization has on the left-handed side of the mound, particularly with optionable left-handed arms. And this is really important because a pitcher like a Jack Dreyer pitched more than he has ever had to do during his minor league career, and significantly more. He went from like 56 innings pitched in 2024 to 75 to 80 innings during the course of the major league season this upcoming year, which means he might have a little bit of wear and tear going into 2026 because of the usage that they put Jack Dreyer through, and he was absolutely phenomenal being able to do that. They need some guys that can move up and down from the minor leagues that are left-handed arms. Justin Robleski is right in that mix as well. Jack Dreyer is in this mix, and now Robinson Ortiz is on the Los Angeles Dodgers roster. I'm so happy for him. It has been a long journey of resiliency to be able to get to this point, but the organization looked at him and they said, even with all the talent that we have, even with all the talent that we're looking to acquire, he is good enough to be a Los Angeles Dodger. It's just tremendous, the story that was able to have and what he has accomplished thus far since coming back from injury at the minor league level. Couldn't be happier for Robinson Ortiz. With Ryan Ward, I really hope that they're able to go ahead and provide him with opportunities to be able to succeed at the major league level, or at least give him opportunities at the big league level, because that's the only way for this move to really be worth it, is if he actually gets opportunities or the Dodgers utilize him in some sort of trade. Because I do not want to see records hold for decades to come because Ryan Ward spent 3 additional years in Oklahoma City. As much as Casey loves talking to Wardo, I'm sure he wants to see him get some sort of big league opportunity. Those are my thoughts. Again, with the roster and where it's at, the pitchers, there are currently 25 pitchers on the 40-man roster for the Dodgers. These are all the 25 different pitchers, including those that are going to be at the big league level if they're on the roster, those who are injured with 0 options, and then optionable arms. And then on the position player side, this is what it looks like right now. So, this brings us back a little bit to you guys, because I stated at the beginning of the show that I wanted to talk over some offseason news for the Dodgers, but I also wanted this to be a little bit of a Q&A for you guys. So if you guys have questions that you guys want answered, I'm going to try to get to those as soon as I possibly can. I'm going to be rolling through as many questions as possible, and so I'll be trying to go as in-depth as I possibly can be. Please be patient. I got to go back from the beginning for this, so if you have a question, please be patient with me trying to get through as many of these questions as I possibly can. Be rolling through these fairly quickly, but also if there's a player that you want my take on, especially with trade or free agency, should the Dodgers go out and acquire it, or what would be the upside of the Dodgers acquiring this player? I want to know that. So, happy to take your thoughts with this. So, Justin Lamas, thank you for your services. Tony Gonsolin, Dean, and Michael Grove, 100%. Justin Lamas, also greetings from France. Thank you for staying up and being part of this show today. So, Showtime LA, thank you very much for joining us. Austin, what do the Dodgers do with the 3 big outfield prospects, Josue De Paula, Zaire Hope, and Eduardo Quintero, if they were to sign Tucker or trade for Duran, play the numbers game, or trade 1-2? So, the organization, even with the move of Ryan Ward, I think still there is a good chance that they go ahead and acquire somebody for the outfield. Even though Ryan Ward fits the profile-wise, just going based off of what my expectation would be, knowing the way that the Dodgers operate, and this is where a lot of my fear with Ryan Ward being stuck at Oklahoma City comes from, knowing that the way the Dodgers operate, I don't think they're going to be completely satisfied with having a platoon of Ryan Ward and Alex Call in the outfield, which currently is the projected outfield or left field option for the Dodgers as of today. It is my expectation that they're looking to acquire somebody for the outfield. The question is who? So when it comes to a Kyle Tucker is likely to require a 8 to 10 year type of deal to take him through the rest of his career, a $300 to $400 to $450 million type of player. This is a very serious investment, and if Andy Pages continues to have success, you're going to have locked in the outfield Andy Pages and Kyle Tucker at least for the next 5 seasons. I think it's 5 more seasons that Andy Pages has team control. I'm not including Teoscar Hernandez. The reason why I'm not including Teoscar Hernandez, he does have 2 additional years of club control, which means that if you sign a Kyle Tucker or trade for one of these guys, it's very likely that a Ryan Ward, a Zach Earhart, a James Tibbs III, some of the guys that are a little bit closer, a Chris Newell, a Damon Keith, are locked out of the picture. And I think for some of the guys that are locked out of the picture, especially if they're going to need to be added to the 40-man roster fairly shortly, could potentially be moved. When it comes to trading for a Jarren Duran, or trading for a Steven Quad, or trading for a Brendan Donovan, or trading for a Lars Newbar, or trading for somebody that has 2 to 3 years of club control, I think if that is the case, I think they try to hold on to as many of these guys as they possibly can, especially if they don't have to be on the 40-man roster. Again, one of the benefits of the Dodgers as an organization, and we'll go through this actually in just a second. There's going to be a whole lot of ads and stuff on here. I apologize for that. But let's go ahead and cut over to Fangraphs right here, because let's look at some of the consistencies that some of the top outfielders that the Dodgers target have. James Tibbs III, traded in the Dustin May trade last year, not eligible for the Rule 5 draft until after the 2027 season. Cole Myers, who had a tremendous 2025, not eligible until after 2027. Josue De Paula, after this upcoming year, he will have to be added to the 40-man roster. Zaire Hope after 2027. Mike Sirota after 2027. Kendall George, Zach Earhart, Eduardo Quintero after 2027. Charles Davalin, some of the other guys that they drafted after 2028. And same thing with some of the guys that are going to be at Rancho as well. A lot of their top prospect outfielders are not going to be eligible for the Rule 5 draft, and thus do not have to be on the Dodgers roster for at least a couple more years. Most of them after 2 more seasons at the minor league level, which means timeline-wise, they actually fit really well as far as replacing a Teoscar Hernandez, or having somebody that can easily be a replacement for after Teoscar Hernandez. And especially if they have acquire somebody that only has 2 years of club control, you can throw them into the mix as well. I think because of that, they're not going to be eager to trade a lot of these guys, although certainly if they add a guy like a Kyle Tucker, the math just works out where not all of these guys are going to be able to be on the Los Angeles Dodgers. I just don't think they're forced to make a move at this point, and if they don't have to make a move and they don't know which one of these guys is going to go ahead and thrive and succeed at the higher levels of the minor leagues, and which ones might struggle a little bit, like we've seen Dodgers prospects and lots of prospects throughout the game struggle at the upper levels of the minor leagues, I think you just have to wait and see what happens if you don't have to make a move. That being said, if they make a trade, you could see one of these guys moved, because the Dodgers have plenty of depth at the minor league level with their outfielders. Great question, Showtime LA. Let's see. Al Minerva, this is what I do. Sign Bo/Tucker. That's it. Plenty of pitching returns. Younger and balanced. That is going to be, if the Dodgers decided to do that, which this is not my expectation, just personally my expectation of what the Dodgers are going to do. That is going to be 2 players, both who receive the qualifying offer, which means the Dodgers are going to lose draft picks if they sign both of those players, which the organization doesn't care that much about, but best believe the organization still wants to have a good farm system and still have good drafts. Look at what they did this past trade deadline. Instead of getting a lot of major league players, they got Adam Serenowski, a tremendous minor league player, James Tibbs III, and Zach Earhart, tremendous minor league players. They still care about the farm system. They added Mike Sirota the last offseason and a draft pick. So they still very much care about the draft pick. When it comes to Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette, if they sign both of those guys, they're going to lose out on significant draft capital. Not that that's the biggest deal in the world, but that's also going to cost significant years and a whole lot of length. And there could be some question marks with Kyle Tucker and his defense, Bo Bichette and his defense, and what he's going to be able to do coming off of injury. It would be, you're talking about a 8 to 10 year, $400 million ish deal for Kyle Tucker. And for Bo Bichette, you're probably talking, you're going to have to pay him like a shortstop, which means you're not going to pay him like a second baseman. You're paying him like a shortstop, of which Bo Bichette is not a great defensive shortstop. And so you're probably talking about a 7-year, $200 to $250 million contract for Bo Bichette, probably. Very expensive deals that would add to the payroll. And during the late 2020s, early 2030s, you're having a really old roster at that point. That would be my pushback with that. I want to provide as much pushback just to be able to provide you with as much knowledge about the situation and to understand some of the potential downside of what could come with signing each one of those guys. Showtime LA, I would sign either Edwin Diaz or Devin Williams, and then set up guy like Emilio Pagan and Raisel Iglesias, who both have great underlying metrics. Yeah, just for you guys, in the description of the video, I do have this Excel spreadsheet that I have linked to. with a lot of potential relief pitching targets. So if you're curious about any of the relief pitching targets, they are all right here. These are some of the numbers that each one of these guys, for example, Edwin Diaz, you can look at ERA estimators, swing and miss, what they're able to do, swing and miss, splits, and contact quality. Edwin Diaz, certainly an option. A couple of other players that are noticeable right now, Peter Fairbanks recently had his option declined by the Tampa Bay Rays. He's somebody that seemingly the Dodgers have had interest in the past. He's got some really cool numbers. The strikeout percentage very much is there. Strikeout minus walk percentage. Good velo, good overall stuff plus, and absolutely dominates against right-handed hitters. 235 WOBA against right-handed hitters. Peter Fairbanks could be part of the mix as well. And then some of the other guys that are noticeable, like Pierce Johnson, just recently got his club option declined. Not saying that he would be the top guy that the Dodgers could add, but he could be another right-handed arm. Emilio Pagan, as you mentioned, Hunter Harvey, Robert Suarez, Phil Maton, Ryan Helsley, a lot of different options of the bullpen. I would encourage you guys to check out the spreadsheet, which go through 2023 to 2025 statistics, and take a look for yourself as far as which guys you like out of the bullpen, or do additional research outside of this, because this does not have every single piece of information. Continuing on with this, Al Minerva, love Vesia, could trade from outfield if Tucker is signed. Absolutely. Stephanie, thank you very much for joining us. Josue La Pala's ETA is 2026, so we could possibly come up. This offseason is going to be interesting. I will push back a little bit. I got to see Josue La Pala all throughout the course of the 2025 season in Great Lakes, and I think his ETA probably is mid to late 2027 at this point. Dealt with some injuries throughout the course of the end of his Great Lakes season, not currently participating in the Arizona Fall League, and I think they don't want to completely rush his development. He doesn't have to be added to the 40-man roster until after the 2026 season. Still put up some tremendous numbers, and what he steals bases, he stole like 30 bases last year, which is seemingly rare for a player like him. The bat-to-ball skills that he has when he's in the zone is tremendous, and he has a tremendous eye and ability to hit in the zone, and there's a lot of good skills about Josue La Pala, but I would push back and say I think it's going to be a little bit before you see him quite yet. Showtime LA. LA has Phillips and Hurt back in the fold for next year. We'll see when Evan Phillips is able to come back, probably a little bit later in 2026. And Carson Hobbs could be a September call-up. Maybe they only need one reliever. Carson Hobbs is definitely a name that you guys need to know out of the minor league farm system. Look up the numbers. Look up some of the video of Carson Hobbs for yourself. He actually has been, I think, twice on Dodgers Daily talking to Casey, or maybe just one time. Tremendous human being, and somebody that you have to know of. He is somebody that this time next year, when we're talking about Rule 5 draft, look out for Carson Hobbs. If you don't know about him yet, learn about him because he's really good. Paul Varn, working hit, but is his defense at MiLB level? That's a real question mark, whether or not he can actually play a good enough defense in the outfield, especially with some of the concerns that we saw with the Dodgers outfield defense, with a outfield defense of a Conforto and a Teoscar in the corners. Do you trust a defense of Ryan Ward and Teoscar Hernandez in the corners, with Andy Pages having to be the one to cover most of the ground in center field? That is a question mark for the organization, what they're going to have. Let's see. Continuing on with a couple of these. Paul Vaughn signed the Mets closer Edwin Diaz. The wants to play on the champs. He certainly is a tremendous reliever and could be he's going to be the most expensive of the options. Now, one note about Edwin Diaz: when we talked about Kyle Tucker and we talked about Bo Bichette, both of them received the qualifying offer. Edwin Diaz also received the qualifying offer, meaning in order to acquire Edwin Diaz, you have to lose out on some draft capital and some international bonus pool money. I think that is also part of the equation with the Dodgers. If they are willing to do that for Edwin Diaz and believe that he's just that much better than some of the other options, which there is a lot of other options that they could turn to on the relief pitcher market, they could go down the path of Edwin Diaz, or they could turn and get somebody else that's just as good. or similarly to quite as good as Edwin Diaz. Orlando, thank you very much for joining us. Yes, Excel sheet analysis. Yeah, it's had a comment, and I think it might have been Orlando, or it could have been somebody else, that this is the only time that I get excited for an Excel spreadsheet, as when we bring up the baseball analytics and take a look at them. Paul Vaughn, Bellinger might sign with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Glad that you brought Cody Bellinger up. Let's look at, again, with some of the numbers with Cody Bellinger, who did not receive the qualifying offer. That's important to keep in mind. I actually don't know if he was eligible to receive the qualifying offer. Should have done a little bit of homework on that. But let's cut back over with the numbers with Cody Bellinger. So if we look at Cody Bellinger, again, offensively, he has been tremendous as a hitter the past 3 seasons. Again, 2023 to 2025 numbers, because I think this provides us with the best representation of who this player is or has been recently. 123 WRC plus, 281 batting average. He is somebody that very much, if you want somebody that can make a lot of contact, he fits that profile and has the ability to go out there and play center field. Where my concerns remain with Cody Bellinger has to do with a decrease in power that we have seen recently. Barrel percentage and hard hit percentage are some of the lowest among all the free agent outfielders available. 6.7% barrel percentage and 34.3% hard hit percentage. You combine that with the fact that his home and road splits this past year at Yankee Stadium were drastically different, and the fact that his expected weighted on base average of 321 is a lot lower than what the actual results are at 346. There could be a little bit of luck that Cody Bellinger is getting with his 123 WRC plus, and he is going to get some sort of pretty big contract. If you're expecting Cody Bellinger to come back on a 1 or 2 year deal, I think you are mistaken with that assumption. He is likely going to get a 4 to 5, maybe even a 6 year deal of $25 to $30 million a year. So you're talking about a $130 to $180 million contract that you would be willing to take on with Cody Bellinger, and have somebody who could potentially, or is going to block one of the young prospects coming up from the system, and somebody who hits lefties better than he does against righties. 151 WRC plus against lefties over the past 3 seasons versus 113 WRC plus versus right-handed pitching the past 3 seasons. Those concerns, especially with the expected stats, with his power component that he has, scares me a little bit with Cody Bellinger and giving him whatever contract that he desires, or going full on, full board. Cody Bellinger has to be a Los Angeles Dodger again. And let's remember, Cody Bellinger, his tenure with the Dodgers ended with a non-tender. The Dodgers did not want him on his roster because he was bad in Los Angeles. Are some of the struggles or some of the circumstances that led to that going to creep up again? And then you're going to end up with another contract that does not look good long-term for the Dodgers, and somebody that's going to take a spot from some of the younger guys. That's my concern level with Cody Bellinger. You could say the defense, the production that he has had recently, and the fact that he can handle the stage in Los Angeles totally outweighs that. Totally a fair argument for Cody Bellinger. But I'm going to continue to point out some of the warning signs with signing a player like him, because I think it's fair and important to look at the potential downside of each one of these guys in order to be able to know what could potentially go wrong if the organization decides to bring him in, and truly see, is he just the best player, or is he a nostalgic option to be able to turn to? That's my thoughts on Cody Bellinger. I'm sure a lot of you guys disagree with me, but I encourage you to be able to air those disagreements with me down in the chat, and there could be some other things that we could discuss with that. We're going to continue our work our way through the comments. Again, I'm way behind in the comments. Continue to leave yours. I'll try to get to it as soon as possibly can. Let's continue with this. Justin Lamas, Michael Grove was already sent to Oklahoma City. He can elect minor league free agency. We'll see what happens with Michael Grove. Continue to wish him nothing but the best. Again, friend of this program. We've had the opportunity, Casey has had the opportunity to be able to interview and talk to him personally. Joseph H., don't think Bo is coming over here. I don't think so, just because I think they are comfortable with Mookie at shortstop. And if you talk about options they have in the organization at second base, you have Tommy Edman, great defensively at second. Hae-Sung Kim, Alex Freeland, both really good defensively at second base. You also could potentially bring back a Miguel Rojas, good at second base. Mookie Betts, if you want to transition him to second base eventually in his career. If you add in a Bo Bichette, that could potentially remove that possibility. And the rest for Mookie Betts' career, he's got to be a defensive shortstop, because I don't think think he's going back to the outfield. That could be a potential downside. And the only reason why I have Mookie at short and Bo Bichette at second base is because Bo Bichette has not graded out as a good defensive shortstop. Mookie Betts grades out as a lot better of a defensive shortstop than Bo Bichette. And you combine that with the contract cost and qualifying offer costs to it. I'm not anticipating Bo Bichette at this point. HP, no Bellinger, please. Look at his home away splits and think again. That's just what I said right there. Davis, Giants got Justin Dean away from us to try to get insider intel. I just hope that Justin Dean goes out there and gets some opportunities with the San Francisco Giants. I know it's San Francisco, and I know we're not big fans of the Giants, obviously. But for individual players, I root for individual players a lot. And even if they're on a team that I don't really like the San Francisco Giants, I hope Justin Dean is able to go out there. I hope he has his first major league career hit at some point over there. He's got a lot of ground to cover in that outfield, and so he's going to go out and have some fun running around in San Francisco if he's on the big league club. Johnny Owen, how old is Ryan Ward? I believe he's going to be entering into his age 28 season, which means that he has been around the Dodgers organization for quite a while. He's spent his, I think, 6 years within the Dodgers organization. He's about to be entering into his 7th, 8th, 9th year of the Dodgers organization if they decide to keep him around and if they decide to keep him as minor league depth. He's starting to get older, but you could also say entering into some of the prime of his career. That could be for a Ryan Ward. Joseph H. Warren is worth a look with the Dodgers. I think he could get a shot unless he's in a trade package for Skubal. He would not be the main source of a trade package with Tarek Skubal. Tarek Skubal would likely require a big league player plus 3 or 4 of your top prospects in order to be able to get him. Ryan Ward doesn't necessarily fit into that mix. Remember, the past couple of seasons, he was not picked up by the Rule 5 draft from other organizations. This was before his breakout 2025, but not necessarily the guy that would headline any type of deal, but could potentially be a throw-in piece for some sort of trade. History man, what a year for Casey. The Thunder winning the NBA title last season and the Dodgers winning the World Series. That's absolutely right. I actually don't know how much of a basketball fan he is or Oklahoma City Thunder fan. That actually is a good point to be able to bring up for him going forward. Let's see. Dave S. says going to take a boatload of prospects, not name Ryan Ward, to even get the Tigers to even accept a call in a Tarek Skubal trade. I think that's right. O'Donnell boy, but need to get better defensively in the outfield. That could be a little bit of an issue going forward. TNVG, Teo or Ward can play better defense in left field. I would probably say slight edge to Ryan Ward just because I've seen the numbers of Teoscar and they're not great. And I know, and I've seen Ryan Ward. I would, if we're talking about grading out Ryan Ward as a defensive outfielder, I would say he probably at the big league level is going to be a little bit below league average as a defender. I don't know to what extreme that's going to be because there's no data that we have available for that. Let's see, Dave S. surprised Ward didn't get a sniff at the Major League roster this past season. I hope he gets some sort of opportunities with the Dodgers going forward if he's part of the roster. Johnny Owen is the Oscar on the trading block. He was terrible in right field. He could be on the trading block. This was actually brought up, I believe, by Jay to me, or it could have been Helen or somebody in the comment section. Teoscar Hernandez did sign a big signing bonus, so that could potentially reduce some of the cost that it takes for another team to have to take on for his contract. That being said, when you sign guys to longer-term deals, when you sign guys to multi-year deals, and this is what I said on the previous edition of the Welcome to the Offseason, there is risk and downside to signing each one of these guys. And this becomes apparent because every time this year it's sign whatever player and do whatever it takes to be able to go out and get them. Well, last year, Teoscar Hernandez, there was people talking about signing him to a 4 or 5, 6 year even deal or doing whatever it takes to go out and sign to Teoscar Hernandez. Now, a year later, everybody wants to trade Teoscar Hernandez. I think the Dodgers hold on to him because I think they see last year as a down year for him. And even though defensively he was a poor defender out there, I think they're going to want to keep on to some of the upside of his bat and some of the leadership that he has going forward. Could change my mind a little bit, especially if they have a big role planned for Ryan Ward, in which case they would have two defensive outfielders in the corner that aren't necessarily great. Could they potentially want to look for a little bit of a different option to be able to help ease Ryan Ward into the mix and get a better defender out there? It's possible. I'm not going to totally rule out a trade of Teoscar Hernandez, but they signed him to a long-term deal, or at least a 3-year deal, a decent length deal, and I think they're going to just have to deal with some of the longer-term deals that they actually go out there and sign. Let's see. Continuing on with some of the comments. Johnny Owen, are the Dodgers interested in Murakami? Murakami being the Japanese, I think, third baseman that hits for a ton of bombs. I don't believe so. With them going ahead and picking up the club option for Max Muncy, I would anticipate them to keep them in that direction. And no designated hitter, no first base spot open. There really isn't a good place to be able to put Murakami, so I would not anticipate it at this point. Plus, there's some concerns about his swinging miss, especially with off-speed pitch, and even with high velo. There's a lot of risk with a profile like Murakami. They have Max Muncy. Murakami, I believe, is a left-handed hitted bat. You could totally diswrite. I've not seen him play a whole lot, but I believe that's what he is. And if he is, there's no real platoon option to be able to put him at as well with the Max Muncy. So I don't think there's any sort of role for him. He's going to get a big contract with some other organization would be my guess. History man Ryan Ward could provide a significant contribution to the Dodgers if they allow him to be able to provide a significant contribution with the Dodgers. That is the real question mark. Justin Lamas, no Catman either. Will either get traded or claimed from another team's 40-man roster, or he will select free agency. I just don't see any reason to protect Ward and Ortiz other than buying some time for a trade. I think part of the reason why the Dodgers have these types of players is you cannot have a 40-man roster full with just major league veteran options. You need at least a good chunk of those guys to be guys that can be moved up and down to the minor league system. And I think Ryan Ward and Robinson Ortiz can fit that type of mold. It's the reason why they still have a lot of younger guys as part of their mix, because not every single one of them can be a major league player. If you just have a 26-man roster and all of those guys don't have minor league options or can't be sent down to the minor leagues, well, everybody who does has got to spend time down at the minor leagues. It has to be a little bit of a mix of major league players combined with players from the farm system, which means they're looking for innovative ways to be able to add young players that they can add to the mix. Certainly, they can utilize some of these guys in trade pieces, but they also need these types of players to be able to come up from the minor leagues to be able to help supplement the roster, because we saw how many injuries happened throughout the course of the season. And they have to be able to have guys that can help supplement them. That's part of the reason I went through it in depth as far as Robinson Ortiz, where he could fit in. Ryan Ward, a little bit of a different treatment. I hope that he gets an opportunity just for the sake of Ryan Ward personally. Let's see. Continuing on with a couple of these. Odani Boy, remember when Gonsolin wore fur in his cleats, and then we will miss him, absolutely. Neil says Ward getting the Michael Bush treatment, absolutely. J.O. on Ward could be plan B if they can't trade for a guy with major league experience. Very well could be. And we've talked specifically about this profile player that Ryan Ward fits, that hits against right-handed pitching that the Dodgers so desperately need right now to be able to go out there and produce. Ryan Ward, again, 1.038 OPS against righties. 31 of his 36 home runs were against righties in Oklahoma City this past year. Really good against that. If you put him in a platoon role at the major league level, perhaps he could really take advantage of that once he gets to the big league level, if you give him enough time to be able to make an impact at the big league level. Let's see, continuing on with some of this, I lost part of my spot, but we'll see if we will get this. Joseph H. with the threat of a lockout and the commissioner gunning to destroy the Dodger spending, hoarding Ward might very well be a necessary defense. Potentially could be with the Dodgers, especially if there's a lot of rumors next offseason there could be a lockout because of the salary cap implementation and the Dodgers needing to find some sort of way to be able to combat that. Perhaps that's an option. I just don't know if that's going to be the exact option that they're going to turn around for him. But unfortunate for him, but I wouldn't call it egregious. The Dodgers get injured. I'd be surprised if he didn't play next year. Jay replied to that. The problem for me is that he gets $68,000 in AAA, then a prorated minimum MLB salary at the MLB level. Dodgers control him until after his age 30 season. So there is a there is very limiting what he is able to do if the only reason Ryan Ward is on the roster is minor league depth, which has me very conflicted on this move. Even though I'm excited for Ryan Ward because he could get an MLB opportunity, it could be very restrictive as far as what he is able to do going forward. Let's see, continuing on with a couple of these comments. Justin Lamas, Robert Suarez doesn't have a qualifying offer attached to them. What do you say? Also, Fairbanks is a free agent too. Yeah, both of those guys really solid options. Robert Suarez, good against righties, good against lefties. Peter Fairbanks, really good against right-handed hitters. If they can get right-handed hitters out and they pitched in some high leverage situations, I'm interested in them, especially if they are options that you could turn to that maybe aren't the most expensive in years type of category. I think both of them are going to get decent enough deals, although Robert Suarez starting to get up there in age. Pete Fairbanks just entering into free agency for the first time. So those could be really two good options to help shore up the bullpen. Pocket Rude Void went into a little bit. Should the Dodgers trade Teoscar? Depends if they have a replacement for him, but at this point, I'm not anticipating it, and I think there's still some upside in Teoscar and at his bat. GI, thoughts on Brendan Donovan as a super utility guy? He very much is an option for the Dodgers to be able to turn to. If you actually look at some of Brendan Donovan's some of his numbers that he has, he's down here. Past 3 seasons for Brendan Donovan, he very much would be somebody, if you're looking for a guy that can hit for some contact, that can move around a little bit, he's the perfect guy to be able to target. 282 batting average, 351 on base percentage, 420 slugging, 117 WRC plus over the past 3 seasons, 2023 through 2025. And what's really impressive about him, 131 WRC plus against righties. He's somebody that can play second base. He can also go into left field. That's kind of where I profile him, as that second base, left field type option. I know he's moved around a little bit more, but those areas in particular, the power component for him isn't very high. He's not going to hit for a whole lot of power, but he's really good with the strike zone. 8% walk percentage, 13% strikeout percentage, very, very low in the game of baseball today. If you're looking for a more contact type of hitter that can hit for some average, Brendan Donovan's going to be your guy. About a little bit slightly below league average as a defender, so not the greatest defender or runner, but as far as a guy that can put the ball in play, move around defensively, he is a really good fit for any sort of organization that wants to trade for him. I would not be surprised if that is the move that the Dodgers take, if they wanted to pursue, and this is something that actually I had mentioned, a little bit of conversation that I was having in the comment section of one of the videos, is I wouldn't have been completely surprised if they went out and traded for somebody like Brendan Donovan. You could have him be the second baseman versus right-handed pitching and take Tommy Edman, who is not great against righties, out of that role and put him in a little bit more into a super utility / second baseman versus left-handed pitching type of role. And then you could even still add another bat that can hit against lefties. Perhaps that's a Ryan Ward. Perhaps that's somebody like, and I know this was not a popular take when I said it, but it remains true, like a Mike Yastrzemski, who has a 120 WRC plus against righties over the past couple of seasons. Or you go for double the options in the trade category and trade for 2 of them. Brendan Donovan, very much a good fit, could fit in the outfield. Not the greatest defender out there, but could be serviceable, could play a little bit of second base, move around, do a lot of the things that the Dodgers want to do. Let's see. Continuing on, Leo says, I would add Tibbs to that list. I'm not sure exactly what list he's talking about, but perhaps the list of guys that could be potentially part of the equation in the future for the Dodgers going forward. Alicia, thank you very much for joining us. What do you think the Dodgers are going to do with Hurt, Ryan, Stone when they come back? Do you think Hurt would go to the bullpen? That's kind of where I'm leaning a little bit with Kyle Hurt. He has been a starter throughout much of his minor league career. However, when he has pitched with the Los Angeles Dodgers, it's been a little bit more of a relief role. That would be my anticipating. Just looking at some of the depth that the Dodgers have. Again, this is where the roster is at pitching-wise. Let's go ahead and transfer over to it. This is likely to change throughout the course of the offseason. This is the pitching depth. I think even though they have Glasnow, Ohtani, Sheehan, Snell, and Yamamoto. They're going to need some of these guys to be able to step up and be able to fill innings as starters, especially with guys that you mentioned, Gavin Stone and a River Ryan. They're going to need some of those guys to eat some innings once they are back and healthy. And that's really the big question mark with both Ryan and Stone. I don't have any updates as far as the health of each one of these guys, but when they are healthy, remember how good Gavin Stone was when he was in a Dodgers uniform during the 2024 season. Really, really solid as a starter, can help fill in, and then River Ryan's just dynamic and electric. Kyle Hurt, also electric coming out of the bullpen. All of those guys, it's very difficult to be able to make some sort of defined role right now just because I don't know what they're going to look like when they come back from injury, but I still have really high ceilings and really high hopes for all of those guys, and I think they're going to find some sort of way to get them in the mix. And this is the difficult part about mapping things out during the offseason, is you don't know where injuries are going to pop up or what the organization is thinking as far as how do we manage time frames so that what happened this year, which is that all their starters were healthy during the course of the postseason. How do we get that to happen again this upcoming season? That's going to be the goal. Hurt, Ryan, and Stone are going to play a massive role in that. Pocket Rude Boy says Tucker is going to San Francisco. We'll see if that actually happens or not. Let's see. Johnny Owen saying Giants will not sign Tucker to a $400 million deal. Could go a little bit of a cheaper route. Perhaps that could be. Random Hero just tuned in. What is your thoughts on adding Robinson and Ortiz to 40-man? Kind of feel like Ortiz's name came out of nowhere because it did come out of nowhere. And if you go back a little bit into the show, I went into detail for Robinson Ortiz and the role and his part of his journey and just how good he actually is. I'll refer you to that so I don't repeat things on the show. Odani Boy Newbar, the other one on my radar, also had surgery. Yes, very important. Lars Newbar had some surgery. He's going to be out for the start of the season is the expectation, but should be back at some point during, I think, the early portion of 2026. I don't know how long he's going to be out, but that is something that they're going to be out for a little bit. Justin Lamas, you lose 2 draft picks per the qualifying offer for free agency. That's exactly right for the Dodgers because of where they're at and how much they actually spend. Johnny Owen, the roster is the oldest in the National League, and Tucker is not a bad defensive outfielder compared to Teoscar. That's right, and Kyle Tucker would make their lineup younger for now, but in future years could add to the age of the offense in particular. Let's see. TNVG for center field, Harrison Bader or Trent Grisham. 2 good options. Trent Grisham just recently had the qualifying offer attached to him, so that might push me back a little bit. And with Trent Grisham, he had a career year this past year. A lot of the other numbers throughout his career aren't as high as what it was this past season. So, and it's the same thing with Harrison Bader. Offensively, he had a career year. So how much do you want to buy into a career year for both of these guys? At least with Harrison Bader, you know that you're going to get some good defense in the outfield, but he is not going to hit well against right-handed pitching. And Trent Grisham doesn't have the greatest, amazing split differential righty versus lefties if you go back the past couple of seasons and look what his numbers actually are. So I'm not huge into either of those options, actually, to be honest with you. Especially with the qualifying offer on Grisham, and because some of the concerns about it being a career year for both of them. So GI just got the gut feeling the long-term deal for Tucker is one that's not going to age well. We'll actually be talking a lot in the future. Don't know how soon this is going to be about free agents and contracts. Which ones have done well? Which ones haven't done well? I have been collecting data on free agent contracts and contract extensions for all 30 clubs during the Andrew Friedman era. So we'll have a lot of information about that and hopefully be able to dive into that at some point soon in the future. Still got a lot more tweaking that I've got to do with the research that I'm doing behind the scenes. Let's see. Continuing, Shelly says Belly is not coming back. No Bellinger, says Johnny Owen. No ex-Dodgers. GI says 5-year deal for Bellinger is too long, or is about 3 too long. And that's likely what it's going to be for Cody Bellinger. Kings 99, thank you very much for joining us as well. Joseph H, everyone said Conforto home run splits would be favorable to LA, so don't really buy those types of splits. totally fair, and you can take certain splits. All it is just to provide you with as much information as we possibly can be. Rosemond, thank you very much for joining us. You know the host is a legit statistician when he leaves emotion and nostalgia out of his analysis. That is... When it comes to the analysis that I have to do on Dodgers Dogs, that's very much true. When it comes to me going and actually participating in a baseball game, particularly the high A affiliate, the Great Lakes Loons, the team that I get to see the most, emotion very much plays a part of it. But I have to try to remove myself as part of the show. Donnie Boy, Belly was roughly a 5-WAR player 2 of the last 3 years. I wouldn't call him terrible, but not clamoring for him right now either. We're past that. He's not a terrible player. In fact, he's been a very good player the past couple of seasons. The question is, will he continue to be that as he gets older? Again, with Cody Bellinger, there remains some question marks as to his offensive profile, particularly his low barrel and hard hit percentage, and the fact that he does not do quite as well against righties and is going to require a massive deal going into his age 30 season. So you would likely be getting him from age 30 through age 34 seasons with Cody Bellinger. Do you want to add that type of player and block a potential spot for some of the younger guys coming up through the system? That's the question with Cody Bellinger. Rosemond, Loki, I want the Dodgers to get rid of Alex Call. I did not see his value this season. Alex Call, for those of you who don't know, offensively, actually over the past couple of seasons, pretty solid. Around league average, 100 WRC plus. And if you look at his numbers against lefties, pretty solid, 114 WRC plus. That is what you are looking for as a contributor and a player. And he's somebody that can walk a lot. He doesn't strike out a whole lot and can play some solid defense. I think he's actually underrated what the Dodgers were able to do. And you have him for 4 more years of control and can send him down to the minor leagues if you needed to. I think there's a lot of underappreciated value that Alex Call is able to provide and be part of this roster. So I would disagree with you a little bit, Rosemond, but totally fair to have differences of opinion here at Dodgers Dogs. Ryan Ward seems destined to play for Colorado or Pittsburgh, says GI. I hope that he just gets some sort of opportunity to play. That continues to be my thoughts. That continues to be what my hope is for him. Chuck Huddleston, thank you very much for joining us. Surprised by the Ryan Ward move. I wish they had done it during the season and give him a shot over Conforto. I don't necessarily disagree with that at all. Johnny Owen, what would it take to acquire Skubal? Mentioned this a little bit earlier in the show. It would take a ton. It would likely take a Josue de Paula. It would likely take like an Emmett Sheehan, and it would take probably a couple of other guys part of the mix that are at the upper levels of the minor leagues. Some people that can help make the Tigers currently competitive and future competitive. And it potentially could cost somebody in addition, like an Andy Pages part of that mix as well. It's going to be an overwhelming trade package for a Tarek Skubal to be able to acquire him, to the point where, especially with 1 year and with the Dodgers pitching staff as elite as it actually is, what is the role for some of these guys? Or how are you going to fit all these guys into the mix? Or are you just getting him just because he's a good, talented player? Could be a fair option, but I think it costs a little bit too much, and I think there's bigger needs that the Dodgers need to address at this point instead of going out and getting Tarek Skubal. So that would be my thoughts with that. Shelly Lawrence, thank you very much for joining us as well, and thank you for the kind words. Gee, I just wonder if the Dodgers ask for Donovan is the same. Somebody like Quan said I would prefer Donovan because of his versatility. Very good player. Brandon Donovan, very good player. Michael Johnston, thank you very much for joining us as well. Continuing on with these, just a couple more comments before we sign off on here. Joseph H., honestly, Tarek could be hard. Could be had for Sheehan and 2 good prospects. He only is in the last year of his control. Teams are not going to go that crazy. That is true. But a lot of other teams are more desperate than what the Dodgers are, which means that desperation can allow you to make foolish moves. And I think that's one of the important lessons for the Dodgers to be able to take away from past off seasons, especially from other teams. Desperation can lead to foolishness when you're in the course of the offseason. And my hope is that the Dodgers aren't desperate to make moves, but that they go and do their homework and that they're not afraid to make the correct moves that really do address the areas of need that the Dodgers have. When it comes to the outfield, it's not just do it for nostalgia's sake or do it because he is the best guy in the market. Do what makes the most sense for the organization that's going to fit with the holes that you have, either with fixing up and shoring up the defense in the outfield and making it really solid, or having somebody that fits in a key role that can either hit for some contact, hit for a little bit of power, maybe you want a little bit good bat-to-ball type skill, good in the strike zone, or you want somebody that can really go out there and hit against right-handed pitching. Whatever is going to be the best mix with that, go out and make the correct, smart move for that that's going to be healthy for the organization, not just to go back to back in 2026, but to also make the organization healthy going forward, because the front office shouldn't just want a World Series championship in 2027 again. They should want as many of these as possible. So do the smart move to get as many of these as possible and do all of your homework to do it as good as you make as good of a decision as you possibly can make. That is going to be the emphasis for the Dodgers, and the reason why we're going through and talking through this organization and why this Excel spreadsheet is available for you guys. Again, in the description of this video is the spreadsheet that I have available, which has a lot of information as for the Dodgers roster and for other players outside of the organization that could really help them going forward if the Dodgers decided to make the move. Use that as resources. Use other places like Baseball Savant, like Fangraphs, like Baseball Reference, or other places to make yourself as well informed as possible so that you understand the moves that the Dodgers are making and you can go ahead and make your own recommendations for the Dodgers as possible. This is going to be wrapping up of the show today. As I did with the previous two Welcome to the Offseason videos, I will be responding to as many of the comments as I possibly can. I'll get to them as soon as I can. I don't know how available I'll be tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm not going to be live. Tomorrow, I've got an all-night youth event that I'll be going to and helping out with some of the youth group over there. So I'm excited about that. Casey, I believe, and this is just based off a text message that I had with him, is going to be releasing some sort of interview either tomorrow or coming up really soon with somebody that played in the World Series. I'll leave that as far as you guessing who do you think that player actually is who played in the World Series that Casey has the opportunity to be able to talk to. He is working a ton right now on getting as many interviews with players and personnel within the organization as he possibly can. If you actually look back at some of the past videos we've done here at Dodgers Daily, we do a lot of that type of stuff, especially with players at the minor league level. Tremendous opportunity for them to be able to showcase their story, and I can't recommend those videos enough, even if you know nothing about them, because you at one point knew nothing about Justin Dean, and then he turned out to be something in the World Series. You at one point knew nothing about Will Klein. Casey interviewed him, and then he went on and succeeded in the World Series. I'm excited to be able to see the next crop of Dodgers be able to come up and be able to analyze just how good they actually are. So it's important to be able to check that out, as well as to follow along with what the Dodgers are doing. Again, lots of moves that the Dodgers made today. Max Muncy, Alex Vesia, club options were accepted, meaning they will be on the Dodgers this time again this upcoming year. In addition, Robinson Ortiz, left-handed reliever, is now on the 40-man roster. Ryan Ward, outfielder, part of the system, now on the Dodgers. Tony Gonsolin, designated for assignment. Michael Grove, outrighted. We'll see what happens with him. And Justin Dean, also released from the roster, outrighted. He is now a San Francisco Giant. Those are just the start of the moves that will be coming this offseason for the Los Angeles Dodgers. More are to come, and we will be here to be able to cover and talk about it with you guys. Casey will be joining me with offseason coverage, hopefully next week, or whenever he is able to get some sort of chance to be able to take a little bit of a deep dive, and then we will go through and have a lot of different debates as far as what the best move is going to be for the Dodgers. Until next time, though, which should be an interview released tomorrow. I don't know the schedule of the rest of the week, but until the interview that we have tomorrow, thank you very much for tuning in. I can't thank you guys enough. God bless, and go Dodgers.